All right. Thanks for joining, everybody. This is the executive committee meeting, and honestly, don't have anything on the agenda. And feel free to add anything. You know, I think we're going to be covering this in a few, but just to start a topic, you know, Rodney, do you have any input on? Can we just like verbally ask our committee members or members of the board to re-enlist, or if we have to have it in writing, or that is one of the topics.
So we should first start by asking them if they are willing to serve another term, and then we probably need to, if they say yes, then the tree council needs to vote, and then once that happens, they can be sent in as a recommendation for renewal for membership.
Got it. How's it going, Mary? Do you have any operational, organizational issues or needs? Yeah. Rodney, I think consistently we don't have much to add to this. You know, like, and this is a summarization, right? You know, operational, organizational needs.
Yeah, so this is, you know, as the executive committee, this is just, you know, in my mind, and it's really more up to the president and the leadership direction that you're taking the tree council in. But in my mind, I think of this as sort of large picture things, you know, the annual goals, but also how to facilitate transfer to the president-elect, and how to get the necessary business done, you know, so there's a flurry of activity in the beginning of the year. And so the more any of that can be thought about and talked about and communicated, I think the better off the you know, things are. But it's really, that's my own opinion about it, but it's really up to you.
Okay, well, thanks for those tips. Honestly, I think there have been like executive meetings ordered in the past, and I can't remember, you know, what those topics were. But you know, in regard,
yeah, basically the executive committee can conduct business if there isn't enough time to wait until the next meeting, and that has happened a couple times with COVID. So I think one of them was to vote, the executive committee voted on behalf of the CTC to participate in Arbor Day.
That's it. Yeah, good memory.
And then there was another time, I think the executive committee voted not to meet or something to that effect because of the COVID pandemic. So there are a couple things like that happened this year.
That's good. Yeah, thanks for the recall. Back to Joe and the president-elect. Are there instructions in the bylaws for that handoff? Uh, yeah, like
There are not. It really, I guess there's different ways you could do that, but it seems to make sense, where the president would work with the president-elect to kind of guide them and help them come up to speed
right.
with things.
Got it. Okay. Well, I would imagine that those conversations should start happening soon.
Sounds good. I'm down to meet with the two of you anytime.
Cool. Thank you. How's it going, Phil?
Hey, good.
Good.
Nice to see everybody.
Yeah. I should just mention, we're still trying to get the PayPal worked out. For some reason, it's not linking up. And so I have to work with Jessie. She made a donation, which she has a receipt for, to the tree council, but it's not showing up in our PayPal account. So something needs to be confirmed or whatever, but we haven't been able to figure it out so far. So we'll continue to work on that.
Anything else, guys? Can we move into the steering committee? Looks like everybody's present. Okay. So the first item is, I think in our last meeting we talked about, continuing to seek potential planting spots and areas. And I'd love to continue to research the notion of planting in the schools. I think there's a lot of opportunities. Like and it's probably a long play, really. Like we're already set up with the housing authority. That's a quick and easy go-to for sure. And I will continue to research that. Given we've got a couple making the shade events under our belt, and I think I can maybe at least get that started. But I didn't get a whole lot from Seth as to like if we could replicate that or not. But I don't know. I feel like we count on our own to facilitate it, really. But as in like a partnership between the schools and us, basically. So, and I think Mary, from a promotion standpoint, I think it could be something that potential donors could get behind for sure. But anyhow, thought I'd mention that. And we were talking in the executive committee. I'm not sure. I don't think Phil was in on this, but the need to re-up or re-enlist some of the current members whose terms are expiring. And Rodney had the suggestion that we verbally request or ask these guys, and I've got it written down somewhere. I think it's from the last. I can get back to you on that, but verbally ask these the members, and then vote to confirm it in the following meeting. Yeah.
So right now, the terms that are expiring on the 31st of December are Joe Perloff, Jesse, Nina, and Tori Goff. There's a vacant position, and there's also a vacant position. So there's 5 total. So one will need to be filled with a new member. Two of them will need to be filled with new members because Nina won't be here next year.
Two vacancies that need to be filled once again.
Yes, there will be 2 vacancies. So right now there's a current vacancy, and then Nina's term will expire, so that one will need to be filled as well. And then Joe and Jesse and Tori will need to be asked if they would like to renew their memberships.
Got it. Okay.
Joe is president-elect, right? So he can't be president if he's not a member.
Oh, too bad.
Yeah. You don't have a choice, bro.
Well, that could be a little tricky because, if things go the way they did last year, he won't get appointed until March or April.
Mm-hmm.
So
One said he would cover till March or April, though.
nice. Be the acting president.
Yeah. Well, I'll cover the Christmas party. I hope we have one. And that much. So, at least virtually. But, and then I think in our last meeting we talked about having both an educational short and a forester's section. I'd be glad to cover the first educational short unless somebody wants to. Anybody want to? Okay, got it. I appropriately, I'll cover trees in the urban forest, and how they're different than trees in nature. So, Rodney, you want to give us a preview on what you have in mind, or do you have anything yet?
I don't have anything in particular. As far as the forester section, I was kind of thinking about educational materials also, but I don't know if we need to duplicate that. So I guess I guess I just need to ask, like, what would you like to hear from me? I could talk about, kind of what things are looking like, or just whatever I can do to answer some questions or whatever, I guess.
Sure thing. And yeah, I guess any updates on the iTree program would be awesome. And so just to be clear, so is it right that it'll be one or the other in the meetings, like an educational short or the forester section? Or
so after the conversation and after the last steering committee, it sounded to me like there would be an educational short, which could be done by anybody, and then a day in the life of some member.
That's it. Okay, got it. All right.
So I mean, I could do a day in the life and then talk, answer some questions or something like that.
That'd be great. And these are like 5-minute.
Yes. Yeah, they should be 5 minutes maximum.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm happy to, speak to a forester section if that's what the council wants, but I think that would be a third thing other than what was talked about last time.
Okay. Let's see. So will it interchangeably be three things, I guess, maybe? Or day in the life every time?
Well, that's really up to you and the steering committee.
Okay. What do you think, guys? This is kind of and to be clear, like this is sort of a fun, try to keep people involved and I think we're all interesting in our own ways, I guess, at least you guys are. And it's good to, I don't know that we know each other that well. Like I know Mary and it's been good getting to know you guys on the surface anyway. But like I don't have a good grasp of like what your days look like. So I like the idea of getting to know each other a little more. And we all have our reasons, like why we're on this board, of course. And I think we have a shared interest in trees, basically. So it's interesting to me, like how we got here. And that was my motivation. I can't remember if it was my idea, your idea, Rodney. I'm not sure, but nonetheless. Okay, so it'll be one of these per meeting, and then we'll, each. How about that? Each agenda setting meeting, we determine what.
It might be good, Sean, if we just had an educational short and then a day in the life and call that good. And if you need me to fill in a gap on an educational short, I'm happy to do that. There are many things I could speak to.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
My recommendation would be, and I'm not even sure I'm on the steering committee anymore. And if not, that's fine. This is just from the peanut gallery then. But my recommendation would be any two of those three at any one time. But Rodney could certainly fill one of those in a fairly soon with a day in the life of a community forester. And he could also, I'm sure, speak anytime on an educational short. So I would just suggest keeping it as an educational short and a brief glimpse of some member of the council's daily routine activities or interest or background or whatever they want to talk about for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And then if that doesn't seem to be filling the need or working, or it's bogging things down, you as a steering committee can also always change that on the fly, I would say.
I have to say, watching me for 8 hours in front of my computer is not going to be exciting.
Well, I was just thinking about how I'm going to describe my nap before lunch and then the one afterward, but
But
we'll just do.
Sam, like the little segment on WGA where you talked about how the naming of the hurricanes or tropical storms, that's interesting.
Oh yeah, I can always talk about the weather.
Yeah, that's what I'm, like, that's what's interesting to me, not you. So, okay, so moving right along. Wait, we're here until 12:40. It looks like, right? Yeah. I don't have anything beyond that. You guys have any? How's it going, Mark? You guys have anything else?
Here it is. There's one. I couldn't find my hand. May I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Okay, this may be the appropriate place to ask it. If not, I don't know where the appropriate place will be today. And that is, have we gotten a response on the success or failure of the UPS grant yet? It seemed like Stacy didn't have an answer the other day in our big meeting. Is that right?
If I'm not mistaken, that's correct.
Okay, well, just for the purposes of discussion, let's assume that we were successful and that we got the grant again this time around. If so, is there a group in place that is going to run that project? Or is that something that we will seek a gathering of at our next monthly meeting, perhaps?
Good question. And remind me, guys, like with those past events, like I guess I sort of raised my hand, when it came to, like the Rock Springs and the Broad Acres, like how did was it just simply a sign up scenario? Like, did we, assign a leader, like I think. That's a good idea if we didn't, I guess. Like I think, like we were equally energetic, and, passionate about the event, that I think, we worked, and we were already, like it was pretty easy, I guess. But, like in the event that it's probably not always going to be that way, in terms of, so I think to have some level of structure, like to have the lead person or the whatever, like, assign some delegation, I guess, in that process really would be a good idea. But
well, I know that the Trees for Tomorrow work group is in its most recent definition or explanation of its purpose is to sort of oversee the tree planting activities of the council, along with perhaps some other duties of maintenance and records and so forth. But I don't think it's appropriate. Certainly that could be a core perhaps, but I think we need broader participation. Once we begin an individual project, so I guess what I'm recommending is that we should know and get on the agenda whether or not the grant has succeeded before our next full meeting. And also on the agenda would be a solicitation for those who want to assist not only in the field day planning activities and so forth, but the planning and the site visitation, the location of plantings, and there's just a myriad of things that need to be done, and I'd like to see them spread around to the extent that we can. I would like to be involved in most, if not all of it, but I think some of our new members, it would be good to try to get them involved in some of these activities as well. Just my thoughts.
that's a great idea, Phil. And that brings up another question, Rodney and everybody else. Like this would be, beyond voting on these projects. Like it would probably quickly transition into a work group, right? And then therefore it wouldn't necessarily have to be like in a setting like we're in right now. Is that right?
Yeah. So having an understanding of when you want to do the planting and for, you know, and like what event it's connected to, or if it's its own event. So for example, if it's connected to the Arbor Day, then I would be much more involved, as compared to like if it was connected to Martin Luther King Day, I would be involved, but probably not organizationally, if that makes sense.
Does
So
to me.
it just kind of depends on, you know, all those questions, you know, when or why, when, where, who, and we start answering those questions, we'll have a lot better idea.
Yeah, I think that's a great mention there, Phil. Thank you.
And those, Rodney, those kinds of questions are probably ones that should be answered by the council at large, because it has to do with setting our plans for next year for activities and all sorts of things. So maybe that's something that we will be ready to talk about at our next full meeting.
I have a question about getting involved in planting at schools again. Who would be our best contact to start that? Is that something, Mark, that you're doing with education? Like, you know, will that be taken on by education to explore the possibility of getting involved in planting at schools again? And is Seth our best contact for that? I don't know who the contact was previously. If we're trying to do that without using the Made in the Shade grant and using other sources of funding, what's our end there? Who's our main contact, I guess? Does anybody? I wouldn't know how to start. I know that different landscaping companies actually do the maintenance at the schools. And then I guess we'd have to have a contact at the district level to see what their needs are and
Sure thing.
Yeah, some kind of facilities overall manager.
Right. So I have my involvement was at my kid's school, and that was Timothy Elementary. So, you know, my involvement in the PTO and just, you know, being a parent in general, I approached our principal, and it kind of went from there. And, you know, knowing, of course, Seth and a little bit about the program, it was a pretty, you know, easy acquisition, I guess I might say. Unfortunately, and maybe you guys know this, but it's not a big. There's not a big grab for this grant. You know, like I think we could realistically, like, if they were willing to give it to us, you know, like with every application, I think there's no chance to get it. It's not. It takes a lot of work, you know, and a lot of involvement. But you know, it's been established that we aren't. It's going to be decades, I think, before we're, you know, in line to get it. So anyway, to answer your question, I think it would be best to reach out to a principal. I don't know, Mary, you kind of live on that side of town, but you know, like the Whitehead, Whitehead Road Elementary was one of the schools. They did a big renovation.
yeah.
Yeah, was another one. I have friends there, and so it would be, I think, simply it would just be that you know, contacting a principal. I do know the operations director. His name is Dexter Field. So my initial contact or conversation was with Seth, and then reaching out and connecting with our principal, and
Yeah.
then eventually looping in Dexter Field. It's important because they want to know where you planted stuff, of course, or when they planted. But
Right. Well, I mean, it might be that one of us, somebody starts, drives around and visits the schools in the county too, just to get our eyes on and see if we can just kind of come up with a priorities list of what schools need them the most. Like I know at Chase Street, there were several landscape architects and they have a master plan, tree plan. They have, I mean, and when my kids were there, we got that grant and had so many oaks and a bunch of trees planted. And it was amazing, but I know there's schools that don't have very active PTOs, as we talked about before, but
that's right.
yeah. So reaching out to principals and maybe driving around and see which schools need it the most. Mainly the playgrounds, it seems like, need shade.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a pretty depressing spot. If you ever visit those kids,
Yeah.
It's pretty rough. But Rodney, were you raising your hand there?
If I would just make a suggestion, if you're going to be going to multiple schools, that you might want to reach out to the superintendent level, just to let them know what's going on, because they can be pretty sensitive about people driving around unannounced. So I would just suggest talking to somebody so they know what's going on.
That sounds, and during COVID, when the kids are not there right now, so it might be a good time to check out the campuses while they're learning from home.
There's my hand. For some reason, my screen is reversed, and every time I tilt my head this way, I go the other way. And so when I raise my hand, I'm off the screen. There I am. I don't know what the hell to do about that, but I can't even shave in a mirror, so that's why I grew a beard to start with. Anyway, so given that the Made in the Shade grants are sort of off the table for a while anyway, do we have knowledge of a pocket of money that I feel like that if we approach the schools or talk to them about planning and so forth, we need to be able to tell them that this is just an academic exercise until we can find money, or that we have money and are looking for where to spend it. And so can anybody answer that for me? Have we found a source of funding at present?
With my kids' school, they did this. I can't remember what they call it, but it's like a little like a run-a-thon or something like that. It's a fundraiser where parents sponsor the kids and to do so many laps, and they get so much money a lap. That was one way. Another is they have this like family fun night where there are you buy so many tickets and you get you do these little I don't know, you get a bunch of junk, like you win a bunch of stuff, and of course all those things are basically off the table now until further notice. But that was with the Making the Shade grant. It was a matching arrangement. Like it was a $5,000 grant matched in kind through money, volunteers, whatever hours. So I would imagine there are other fundraisers like that they're involved in, but it would involve like earmarking or at least requesting that they earmark funds to this project. So, and I guess Mary and we could potentially match or not, or contribute what we could, to the pot. I guess it wouldn't have to be a match arrangement, but at least a contribution.
So there's not an existing grant out there that we are thinking about making application to per se. It would require some fundraising on our part or the school's part that was chosen and so forth.
That's accurate.
That having been said, I think now would be an excellent time to begin to look and see where the needs are and to try to identify maybe specifically what in the way of trees and so forth would be useful at the various schools, so that when there's a physical presence on the school grounds again, we would have that information and maybe be ready to go. It is a good idea, I think, to access these physical plants while the students aren't there, perhaps.
Yeah. And this, of course, so this is just an extension, I think, of what we're talking about. But I'm curious, what what Arbor Day is going to look like and MLK Day, like for us, and the tree planting. Like I personally work outside with the guys, and we do so fairly safely. So, like we'll have to, of course, consider what that's going to look like if COVID is still, among us, I guess. Go ahead.
They're moving ahead with Rivers Alive in October, if that's any indication as to what MLK Day might look like. So not so much for Arbor Day, but they are planning that aspect of it, or Rivers Alive. So there should be some limited availability for MLK Day as well, I would expect.
Great. I mean, I don't think it's going to be too much of a stretch, really, to maybe we'll have to plant smaller trees so we won't have to, wrestle with the big ones, like we have to with the bulb and burlaps, manageable, I think. Mark, have they said what that's going to look like?
I think they're limiting volunteers at sites to 10, and they're trying to be spread out. In terms of handling things, obviously they're going to have to handle stuff, and someone's going to have to come pick it up. But so I agree with you. It might be a little tougher to have 3 people around a tree, getting it into the ground or something like that. But it sounds like they're going to try and do some stuff to make sure there's groups on site, but still distance and wearing masks and everything like that. I think they're eliminating the get together beforehand, so they're just having people go out to the sites. But other than that, that's about all I've heard so far.
Okay. All right, looks like we're about ready to transition into the interview committee. Looks like 5 of us are on that. You guys need to take a break, or can we move on into that?
I'm going to get out of here. I'll just let Rodney know. I've got limited time today. I'm just getting back from vacation. So I'm going to try and do stuff for the policy, but I might have to run, or I might be a few minutes late. So otherwise, I'll try and see a few of you later.
Okay. Thanks, Mark.
I'll be back in a few for the TFT group.
Okay.
Hey, Sean, do you know who is on the interview work group?
Oh, that's right. It's Edith, me, Edith, you, Pam. Do you remember if you're on it?
I can't remember, but I'll stay.
I've got I've got it written down somewhere. I'm sorry, but Edith, I know. How's it going, Edith? Rodney, I think she's on mute. How do you unmute?
I'll get her.
Cool.
How about now?
Oh,
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Our internet's out, so I'm on my cell phone.
I think. Got it.
I forgot to send out. I know I sent them out once, but it sounds like they got missed in the barrage. Does everybody need me to send out the old interview questions and materials again?
I think I missed it. That would be helpful for me.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt to have another copy.
Okay. It looks like Jim is on the list as belonging to the interview group as well, so I'm going to put him down.
Sorry, I thought I saved it to Drive, but I'll find mine.
So the list I have is Sean, Rodney, Edith, and Jim. And then Pam said she would also help out. So that's who I have.
Thanks, Pam.
Thanks, man. So I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at the becoming a member note and the interview questions. But I think we're kind of limited on time to probably like review and come up with edits, right now, right? But I think the goal was to like assign like advertising sources, right? Like or people who would seek the advertising sources rather. Sorry, I'm pulling this up.
So I have a list of documents here for application and nomination information. And I do have some, I have the 2020 press release. Well, that's not, sorry, that's getting a little ahead of it. Getting a little bit of, I'm going to have to dig more, but basically we have the advertisement literature or verbiage, and I have that somewhere. I'll dig that up. And then I think there's like a canned email response, like, thank you, we've received your application. Look forward to talking to you, something to that effect. And then a set of interview questions and a scoring sheet about those interview questions. So those would be the 4 documents that would need to be revised and to kind of bring it up to speed. I think the advertising part's straightforward enough. The interview, the email canned responses should be fairly straightforward, although you may want to add in, suggest that you read the tree ordinance and the tree council bylaws and mission. And then the interview questions are what really need to be updated, because almost all the questions basically ask potential members, if they have time to be involved. So there could be some other questions that could be maybe a little more engaging. They're kind of awkward because the interviewees don't really know what to expect, and so they don't know how to answer those questions.
Right.
And then, and then once that's all, and then a scoring sheet about those questions. So to be able to be consistent and fair, it's good to have some sort of a rating system. And so I'll send those all out to everybody, so you can start taking a look at those and I would encourage people to go ahead and start making edits and start coming up with interview questions. Like, there's no need to wait for everybody else, to start producing something. I would say we all produce something, and then the next time we meet, we can kind of agree, or what that's going to look like.
Rodney, are we looking for any particular skill sets to complement the committee? I mean, is there any place we're really lacking?
I would say organizational and leadership skills, especially at the board level or at the executive level, would be really helpful. But then, so a couple things that need to be said about membership nominations. It's by ordinance required to select members from a wide representation of Athens citizens. And I think we could do a better job of that in the tree council. So that's something that really needs to be considered. And then, any kind of organizational or event planning or executive experience, leadership, that sort of thing would be helpful for sure. Because basically each committee sort of is its own entity, and in order for the tree council to work really well, we kind of need people that can kind of take charge and move things forward.
And I had another related question. I noticed that we were going to advertise on public media, both print and WUGA. What about different listservs like the Master Gardener Association and, I'm trying to think of what others, but would that be helpful?
It could be. The question, yes. The short answer is yes. the question I have about that is how do we broaden the representation, the community representation within the council? So I'm all about asking gardeners associations, but it might also be appropriate to ask like a home builders association as well, or, you know, other community groups.
I agree. That's a good point. Okay, so yeah, it looks like we have some homework to do. You know, review these items, these documents, and come up with some edits. And would these be topics to bring up in the meeting, Rodney? Do you suggest?
You could, if there's time. I mean, since it's a work group, the tree council is a perfectly acceptable place to talk about it.
Okay. And would these have to be voted on as far as like the questionnaire, you think?
It's a great question. Maybe. I mean, it's always better to sort of have a consensus on things, so maybe so.
Yeah.
It looks like Todd is here for the Trees for Tomorrow piece.
All right, guys. Well, I'm going to step away for a bit, and Rodney, I'll see. Well, guys, I'll be back in the policy committee at 2. So see you, Rodney. Thanks.
Hey, Phil, it looks like Todd is here.
Yes. Welcome, Todd.
Hey, how are y'all?
Good, good. Thank you for joining us. Let me get a quick.
I live in the land of low bandwidth, so I can't share my picture, or it becomes very jumbled.
I'm trying really hard to remember what you look like. I think I've got it though.
I can turn it on briefly, but it normally causes it to have a lot of it jumbles it. So
I get that. Oh yeah, I know you. Appreciate you taking the time out. I know you're busy, as all you ACC employees are, right, Rodney? Okay. Let me get a quick list of who we have with us. I've got Rodney, Mary. Are you with us?
I'm here.
Okay, good. Thank you. Pam, me, Edith, welcome. You're muted. You're muted, Edith.
So we're starting another committee meeting at this point, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes, okay.
You're welcome to stick around. But
Already, I'll probably sign on. Goodbye.
bye-bye. Okay, so Rodney, Mary, Pam, no Edith, and Todd. Okay, very briefly, I don't think we have a lot that we can take care of today, but Todd, I gather through some indirect communications with Rodney that some progress has been made and is being made on the Firefly in the area of the new racetrack. And can you update us on that and when we might need, or it would be advantageous for us to come take a look at where we are on the trail now?
We have our first construction meeting in the 1st of October. And so when we have that, we should be getting a project schedule from the contractor and kind of get a timeline of the demo and that kind of stuff. So I can get back with y'all then once we have a better feeling when silt fences are going in and that kind of stuff. You know, we can, if we wanted to walk it at some point, we probably can set up a time to walk it, the whole project area. I've asked Derek, the SPLOS manager, if there's any properties that we can't access just yet, because usually what happens is sometimes there may be an easement that he hasn't quite got and as construction starts, and so we would have to skip over that piece. But we can definitely go for a walk if we want to go look at some stuff. You know, this fall, winter coming up,
Okay.
and you know, so and also, you know, the Firefly Phase 1, that end of it, you know, that one is complete now, and so there should be limited disturbance there if there's any desire to plant any trees this fall, winter, along that little short segment.
I'm sorry, I missed which segment you said, Todd. Can you?
The Firefly Phase 1, the one that's been in the ground for a while, but you know, when we picked the trees locations for the Arbor Day celebration, we avoided that very end because they were realigning Old Winterville Road across from the racetrack, and so that
Yes.
one should be pretty stable. And now we should be able to, if we want to plant some trees in that area this fall, winter, you could go ahead and do it. So it's just an idea as well.
Okay, let me ask you a question sort of as a follow-up. I've noticed in driving by, and I haven't stopped and gotten out and looked, but just behind the racetrack, it looks like it's part of their property, and I'm assuming that those trees that I see planted back there were part of a contractor working for racetrack, or perhaps as a mediation with the county. Can you tell me about that? That's not county planting there, is it?
Correct. It's not, but basically what it is there's a sidewalk that sort of snakes its way up the hillside. And so that sidewalk connects to the Firefly Trail Phase 2 project.
Okay.
And so a lot of those plantings, some of them, I believe all the plantings are still on racetrack property. So.
Okay. So between where we planted this past year and racetrack, particularly right there in that intersected area where we looked and it was all in flux, that's a little more set in stone now as to where the right of way is and where the trail will be and so forth. So that would be something that we could focus on for planning this year if we have funds and an opportunity.
Correct.
Okay. Well, I guess what I'm suggesting is that rather than wait until construction takes place on Phase 2, that we might try to go ahead fairly soon and have a field trip or a gathering over there to look at that intersection, and then perhaps to at least get a feel for the beginning of Phase 2 and where it will take off from racetrack, and what that sounds like something that probably wouldn't be in the offing as far as planning for this winter anyway, because of the construction going on. Correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, folks, those of you who are here, what are good opportunities for you to a weekday at lunchtime, a Saturday? What's best for the group to try to visit?
For me, it just depends on the day because I have meetings scattered around, but nothing regular.
Okay. I guess I ought to also ask, do you think it's important that I really don't see any other way to get a finite feel for what we need to plant and how many and where, short of actually going and seeing it?
I agree.
Yeah, me too. And lunchtime or Saturday mornings work.
lunchtime is okay with you, Mary, you said?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, what I can do if it's agreeable with y'all, and then we can throw it open to other people on the council who might wish to join us, is look ahead a couple of weeks maybe and suggest some times and dates. Pam, do you know, are most of your meetings planned week or two ahead, or are they kind of like seat of the pants things?
Usually I've got a schedule.
Okay. Okay.
So if we set up a time, then I'll block it off.
Okay. Well, if y'all don't mind, I will take it on myself to come up with 2 or 3 possibilities, try to look at the weather and see if we can find a good time, and then send it out to you by email and you can respond and we'll go from there. Does that sound good? Rodney, I know that you've got a lot of irons in the fire and may or may not be able to be with us, but certainly you're welcome. And if possible, it'd be great to have you. If not, as I told Nina, she's not going to she wasn't able to be with us today, and I don't know what her schedule is going forward, but I'll get the word out to her too. She participated last time, as did Joe Perloff, I think. And so I'll contact the ones who went with us last time and see what we can set up. Todd, what about parking or a place that we could gather?
There's some parking at Racetrack that's officially green, Firefly Trail designated parking that's right there in the back next to the dumpster. I don't know if they've actually striped it yet, but there's official parking spots for Firefly there. Or you can sort of park in those businesses parking lot where the road is kind of dead ended. A little bit, but probably don't want everybody parking there and taking up their spaces.
Yeah. Well, I'm guessing we won't have that many vehicles there, and it'll be for a fairly short time. So perhaps trying to park as close as we can to the racetrack and maybe to those Firefly designated spots would be a good idea then. So we'll plan to try to go from there. Okay. Now, there was one other thing I think that was listed on our discussion, and that is to establish additional planting sites at schools. And we talked a little bit about that in the steering committee, and I don't have anything. Hey, Jesse, welcome. I don't have anything else to add to that right now. It sounds like that Sean is going to try to continue pondering and looking into how we might go about making those contacts and finding out what needs there are. As far as a funding source, it sounds like there's not an established grant that we are likely to be able to acquire for that. So it's going to be a fundraising and a planning situation when that takes place. We talked a little bit also about the Athens Housing Authority planning project, which we hope, I don't think we've gotten the final word yet on whether that grant was approved or not with UPS and keep somebody green and beautiful. But we're assuming that that's going through. And if it does, we're going to have an item on the agenda to talk about getting people involved in the planning for that. So watch for that for the next council meeting next month as well. And I will be back in touch with all of you folks in the next day or two with some possibilities for a field trip. That sound okay? Anybody else have anything? If not, we have done well, Rodney. We've only run over 5 minutes or so. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Todd, for being there with us. I'll be in touch with you as well. Jesse, thanks for showing up. we'll talk to all of you soon. Thanks again.
All right, looks like we're up for promotions. I did hear from Tori today, and she has court, but she may pop in for 10 minutes or so. And I'm not so sure if Joe is going to join us. I was just working on his bio to put him on the next Meet the Council members Instagram and Facebook post. So I want to keep on trucking with that, but let's follow our agenda here. We have any website updates, Jesse?
I honestly have not done a whole lot since the last time we met. I hope that I can get hopefully some of the historical information on the site for the next meeting. I think that's my goal, is to get that on there, because I feel like I'm so close to being able to launch it, but I want to get that key part in there first. So it's
Right.
kind of holding me back.
So we have a good table. I can put it up to share. Share. I don't remember how to do this. Okay, I see.
Down on the bottom, I think.
Share screen 2. Did that do something? It's doing something.
I was thinking about it.
Yeah. But anyway, Tori went through some of those files of Rodney's, all of what she got on a flash drive, and made this little chart here, which is great. Jesse, I don't know if we want to, sort of write some of this out in more descriptive language, or, and also have this as a link on the website. One thing that we don't have, go down here to more recent, are there dates? So the dates aren't on here.
Yeah, that would be kind of nice to have some dates.
Let's see what's over here. I haven't looked at this in a while. I looked at it when she said, okay. So she just went through, and I'm not exactly sure what everything looked like that she had access to, but it does look chronological. I don't know exactly because I haven't been on that long, but from what I hear, this could be chronological, although it's missing all of our Athens Housing Authority stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if Rodney's listening right now. It looks like he's still on, but he may have taken a break. But I did email him this and copied Tori and said that information wasn't here. I did not mention that there were not dates because I didn't notice that. But we should get the dates for that. So I'm sure that we have that somewhere, the list of trees that were planted at Broad Acres and Rock Springs. It would be,
even if we didn't have like specific dates on there, I think that it should at least say between the periods of 2001 and 2020, just so people know that there was a start and it's up to date. I mean, I don't think we have to list all the specific dates necessarily, but a general, this is what we've done with your kind donations, and we could do more with more donations.
Right. And also, it could be useful to say if it was part of a, Arbor Day planting. Some sort of community-wide event,
Yeah.
So, okay, make a note to try to track down that information.
Pam, did that donation ever come through? Were you ever able to figure it out?
I have not been able to figure it out. I think what the problem is it's probably hanging out in limbo somewhere that we need to go in and confirm something. But I have not been able to get into the email to see what's there from PayPal.
when I looked at the email, I didn't see anything. Like it didn't say anything about PayPal at all. So,
Yeah, see, then I wonder, is there something about whether or not we're using partly lowercase and partly uppercase in the email that's throwing it off?
I wouldn't think
I
so.
tried it. I tried logging into PayPal both ways, and it didn't seem to make a difference for PayPal. But some programs are fussy about that.
Yeah, that's strange.
I just haven't had time because I've been tied up with other stuff at work. But
That makes sense.
But it's on my mind. We got to get it figured out. I just think the money's just floating around there somewhere. But of course, I go to PayPal and there's nowhere you can actually call and talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so we may have to at some point sit down together and you can show me what's in the email or whatever. We can do that by Zoom and share screens or whatever. But I need to find some time to do it, and so far I haven't done it.
I totally understand. I need to find time to do so many things.
Mhm. Well, I guess, really that having the PayPal link, fully functional needs to happen before we take this live.
Yeah,
And-
that was one of the reasons why I suggested maybe trying out this donation that I could kind of track as our first one so that we can make sure it works. And it's a good thing we did, because now we're seeing
Right, now we know. I'll try to find some time this week to work on it because I'd like to see this thing go live pretty soon.
Yes, definitely.
And
Yeah,
so
I'd like to send out that donor letter too, and so having the timeline of past events, and I think if we had those two things, otherwise we're ready.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to have people send checks, I'm fine with them sending it to my home address, or we could send it. Maybe it'd be better to send it to Rodney, because if I'm ever not treasurer, then it would still at least go to Rodney.
Yeah, that's the address.
That's probably a better choice.
Okay.
He can always get it to me.
Okay. So hopefully, I don't know if Rodney, I feel like he gets bombarded with so much of our requests. As far as the timeline and the plant list goes for what was planted at the Housing Authority sites, I think he's probably our best person to contact with that. And
certainly that's documented somewhere.
I know we have receipts from the nurses.
I would have receipts. That might have some of it, but I'd have to check.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm excited that we got some money to spend on gifts and promotional materials.
Yay!
That's great, despite me forgetting about our last meeting. And from my notes, we have, kind of gone round and round about purchasing the prints to gift for the higher donation levels. I think as a committee, we decided to go ahead and do that and get the bigger prints for the larger donations from individuals.
Yes.
Not necessarily from corporations, right?
Right. I think that it was a matter of not buying a ton of them up front, maybe just a handful, and spending some money on other things. And then if we find that we need more, we can always order more.
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and move forward with asking Seth to he's the artist for those prints. And then how do we pay? Do we mail a check? Do we have a card? How do we pay for things?
Usually I get an invoice and I send a check.
Okay. So I can give
Don't think we have a card.
Okay. So I can give him your email address, and you can look out for an invoice to start us off on a few of those prints.
Sure.
And then
I mean, the other option would be for you to pay and for me to reimburse you, but I'm happy to do it either way.
Yeah, okay.
Whatever's best for you.
To pay online, I'll do that.
Yeah, sometimes that's almost easier, just so you can send payment immediately. And
right.
Yeah, it's probably more realistic. And And then, postage, like if we do send, I don't know if we'll email mostly this letter, but if we send thank you notes, and that's something else that I can just buy and then share receipts with you, Pam. Is that the best way?
Who's going to send the thank you notes?
Well, we haven't decided. I don't know if that should be, secretary.
Yeah, I have done it in the past because there haven't been that many of them.
Great.
And if there's going to be a lot, then I'm not sure I want to do that by myself.
Yeah, well, hopefully there'll be a lot.
Yeah.
We'll
It's
divvy
a
We might think about I've always just donated the postage, but other people might not want to do that. They could buy some stamps and keep them aside for, tree council stuff, and then just use those and get reimbursed for them.
Yeah, I don't think, in the beginning, it's not going to be a big ordeal. If we have, of course, we want to be as paperless as possible, but we're not going to have too many big gifts that we're sending. These prints will be a little bit more, maybe in a 8x10 envelope or something like that.
Right.
And if we send some bumper sticker type things, but I think it's okay. I mean, do you all think it's appropriate when I think of individuals in the community that I'd like to solicit funds from, do that via email?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fine.
There's a lot of it now. I mean, it probably depends on how well you know them too.
Yeah. I do think a handwritten thank you goes a long way, though.
Yeah.
And I think if there were a ton of those, that we could divide it up and, all write a couple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just trying to think about how I feel, and what we're more likely to pay attention to in terms of soliciting things. I get things in the mail from, like I'm a member of the Oconee County Land Trust. Is that what it is? No, the Oconee River.
Oconee River, yeah.
Oconee River. What is it?
It's the Oconee River Land Trust, I think.
Land Trust. And they send out, they have a pretty fancy envelope with a pay stub attached to renew your annual membership type thing. So there's some printing, there would be some printing fees involved and all that. But I don't know. I think I'm more likely to pay attention to things that come in the mail. I don't know. I just thought I'd,
You get a lot of solicitation mail this time of year, especially leading up to Christmas.
And we're in an election cycle, which I like.
Yeah, we'll get that too.
Yeah, I like the idea of trying to be paperless, and that's sort of, Anyway,
yeah.
We can think about that a little more, and I think we can just judge who we. But if anybody on the council has people in the community that they'd like to send a work on this sort of rough draft of a letter that who edited it? Did you edit it? Jesse? Somebody edited my letter and it's great. It's much better.
It wasn't me.
Yeah. All right. Well, since I'm getting one ahead on the agenda, but I would like to show you that letter.
Did you send it to Mary Songster? Because I bet she did it.
I don't remember. It's either her or Joe Perloff, I'm guessing.
Joe is very, very busy right now, so I don't know that he would have had the time to put into it.
Mm-hmm. It's probably Mary then. I think I did. Yeah, it was Mary. I did that separately because she was talking about, she asked some fundraising type questions, and she said she did not want to be on this committee. However, that we all needed to, together, fundraising in general. I will share it again, and Pam, since you're here, with you as well. And if, of course, anybody is free to change this in any way, but what we tried to do was talk a little bit about what we've done, mainly about what we are, who we are, what type of community members make up the council? You all are reading it. Yeah. Nice consolidation.
Do you say anything in there about, even though we're an official county commission, we don't get any funding from the county?
Mm-hmm. Let's see.
Because they might wonder that.
No, I don't. I don't think. It's been a while since I read it, honestly.
Yeah. It seems pretty long. Most people don't want to read a 2-page solicitation letter.
That's right. And in my email that when I sent it as an attachment, which I should send it to the whole council at this point, but it does say this is a long version, and feel free to because it gets very specific about some of the sites. And I don't know.
You could split it up and say, you put the details into an attached fact sheet or something like that.
Yeah.
So that you have the letter and then you have a fact sheet that lists, these are the projects that we're trying to work on and so on.
I can just say
That's a good idea.
like projects completed, ongoing projects, hopeful projects, maybe.
Something like that.
That's a good idea. Fact sheet. No funding from the county. Okay. All right.
And less text and more bullets is probably easier for people to read quickly.
Oh yeah, this is like.
It's a lot of text.
A lot.
I mean, it's important stuff, but if they won't read it, then it doesn't help.
Well, especially if all this is going to be in the website. And so when I started this, it was well before we started the website. And then we made the decision to wait to send anything out until we had our logo complete and we had the website. But it's redundant now because they can get on the website and see all this. Okay. Good. Okay.
Is there any reason we couldn't put the website up and then just put the links saying link to PayPal coming soon?
Yeah, we can do that.
It's up to you because hopefully we'll get it fixed soon. But
yeah, I do still have a little bit of work to do with like the projects and stuff. So hopefully by the time I get that on there, we can have the PayPal fixed.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do think that's probably going to be the most popular way to donate. What do you all think?
Yeah,
probably. I know that I'm much more likely to donate to things if I can just click a button and my credit card information is already entered into my computer and I can just hit send rather than having to fill out a check and find a stamp. And
yeah, we have a Square account too, although it hasn't been used since the tree fairs, and so I'd have to see if it was still even active.
Yeah. That would be great for like in person. I don't know when we'll be able to do anything like that again.
I know.
Another year and a half.
One day. Yeah, right.
Well, and I'd like to keep it simple. So if I have to check a whole bunch of different accounts, that's not great either.
Does PayPal, is there an expense, like a year, like per transaction?
Yes, there's a fee if they donate. I don't know if it's true for nonprofits. Maybe that may be a part of the issue. Maybe we're supposed to provide them with proof that we're a nonprofit, but they're not sending me the email, so I don't know. And every time I go to ask, they keep saying, well, you've done all your paperwork, but it pops up every time. So I don't know, but that's my problem to worry about. But yeah, I think if for a business at least, there's a certain fee that you have to pay. And some places will give you a check mark that says, do you want to donate an extra 35 cents to cover the fee for the donation?
Yeah, I know Canopy has to pay a fee for their donations. So I'm pretty sure there is a fee, but it is pretty minimal, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I don't think it's not a big fee, but it would add up over time.
Yeah.
I like it when I'm donating to someone's donation page and it says, would you like to add 88 cents to help offset? I usually do it. I did see when I just Googled PayPal customer service, there are a couple of numbers, but
okay, I will
hopefully
work on that.
Someone will actually pick up.
It's over in India somewhere.
So now we just need to go ahead and order some stickers. Do we want to discuss which logo we would like to use for stickers? And Jesse, you said you had a source for stickers that would be like good for cars.
I usually use a website called Sticker Mule. That does a really good job.
Would you like me to do that?
If you had the time and effort to do it, that'd be awesome. So I can focus on the site. If not, I understand I can do it. But
the oak leaf with Athens Tree Council over it is probably the best one. It would go on a water bottle or the back of a car or.
Yeah, I think that would look nice. Yeah.
The one with our full name is too much.
Yeah, I think that would look good on a t-shirt, but I think you're right. I think the oak leaf would be better for stickers.
You said it was sticker mural?
Sticker mule, like the animal.
All right, I'll get some prices for those before we meet again. And then we talked about pens or pencils. We kind of landed on pens. Is that right?
I don't remember talking about that. I'm okay with pens.
Okay.
I'm more likely to use pens, but
yeah,
it depends. Kids might be more likely to use pencils.
Okay. I don't have any ideas on where to find that, but I don't think it'll be too hard. I have gotten some I don't know if Nuff has a source for that. My business, I've gotten some junk emails about that, but I've never taken anybody up on getting bit for pens.
We've never ordered pens. I mean, I've ordered stuff from like Vistaprint and what's another one?
Where do you get your t-shirts?
So I design them and then we have them printed locally at Old Guard Graphics. I used to use Travis Factory and I like them a lot, but they have a 24 shirt minimum and Old Guard has a 12 shirt minimum. And sometimes we just need a small run of shirts just to real quick get some. And so it made more sense to use Old Guard.
Maybe we should go ahead and start researching that as well. Okay. Okay, so we started, my goal with social media is to release a bio and a photograph and then some sort of a tree post. So 2 posts per month. I should be able to do that, right? So anyway, I was working on a post to introduce Joe Perloff today. But I haven't completed it yet. I was asking him about his photograph, which is him next to the Franklinia tree, which is a whole story in and of itself. But, excuse my dogs. So any ideas about what else we could be posting on social media? I wondered if we should tie in some of the things that we're doing in our meetings of this sort of we're going to do a meet, you know, a day in the life, you know, and that kind of overlaps with the bios.
You could do like a teaser of the new website too, if you wanted.
Okay,
Or I can do that. It'd probably be easier for me to do it.
that'd be great. Yeah, certainly on so what would you do? Just do a photograph on Instagram of the homepage?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Or just like like a clip of just like a portion of it. Be like new site coming soon, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That'll motivate me to actually work on the site too, knowing that people know about it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's it. That's about all I have. Yeah, so we have some homework to do. I don't know where we stand. Joe was going to report back on that calculator and what we were going to be able to put on the website, and Pam, that is a link to the carbon. What was it? A tree is the tool, and it's a really neat. It's a tool in terms of you can type in various parameters and it'll spit out answers. So it's kind of neat in different capacities. One of which is a carbon offset calculator, but there are other things as well. Some of the other Jesse, I can't remember what else it was capable of.
I don't remember, and he had some back and forth with them about getting like a widget for the website, and then I didn't hear anything, so I don't know how far he's gotten with that. I'll have to follow up with him and see if he has an update.
That was one of the slants I kind of wanted to put in the letter to some of the businesses that we send to, is, you know, especially if they travel, you know. I know my husband's business, you know, they send a lot of guys on the road, a lot, technicians at TSAV. They have projects in Kentucky and Alabama, even as far as Ohio. So it would make sense for them to donate just to offset their carbon emissions.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of started that conversation. But
yeah, I'll follow up with Joe and see if I can get an update on how far he's very busy lately, so he started a new job and is having to learn all of the fun ins and outs. So that's probably why he isn't here today as well.
No problem.
He was on earlier, I thought, but maybe just briefly in his schedule.
Yeah, I think he can come like right at lunch and then get down.
Yeah.
Get down.
Well, the thing is, he keeps forgetting to block off the time on his calendar, and so he has to squeeze it in between his other meetings. So
did you know that he now works for New Urban too, Pam?
I did not know that.
Mm-hmm. So Jesse is aware of his schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel like the tree council is a New Urban. Like, I know.
We did not
enterprise.
intend for it to be that way. It kind of just happened.
Yeah.
In fact, one of our other arborists really wanted to be on the tree council, and it ended up that he wasn't able because it was too many New Urban people. And then Joe
got a job.
He just got a job with us, so it ends up with that many anyway.
Sure.
But I think one of us will probably roll off next year. Just to keep it fair.
Okay, well, I think there's like, we have to replace a bunch of people, and there's at least 3 or 4 that are rolling off, so we should check to see who they are and if any of them are New Urban Tree Council or New Urban Forestry. Because if not, then that's another one we have to find a replacement for.
That's true, yeah. I know that Joe is the president-elect, so it can't be him.
He is actually rolling off. And so we were joking about that and saying...
That's true, he is.
Well, because they don't get confirmed until March, so there might be a 3-month period when we don't have a new president. Or Sean will have to carry over until Joe takes over, because they only want to do renewals of memberships now like once a year. I didn't get my letter for renewal until March. So he's one that's rolling off, but there were a couple others. Nina, but she's not going to be around anyway.
Yeah.
There was someone else too. I just don't remember. I just renewed, so it's not me.
Do we have 2-year terms? And I get confused because it seemed like we were trying to get back on the schedule of getting everybody.
I think they're 3-year terms.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I go through 2022.
Yeah, I like that.
I think Sean is up. I think he is the one that's considering rolling off.
Okay. Well, he's a busy guy too.
All right, you all. I don't know. Let's look and see we have until 2. There's nothing, we can all kind of go dark for a little while until 2, but if you all have anything else.
I've got work to do, so I'll probably just take off.
Yeah, I've got work to do. As much as I like hanging out with Mary and Pam.
All right, guys. Well, thanks a lot. I'll type this up so that we have our minutes, and go ahead and spend this time to get this post up on social media and tinker with that letter a little bit. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Mary. See you guys.
Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay. Easy.
Hi, Mary.
I mean, hi.
Hi. I was just working on some things that we talked about for the promotions committee, and we kind of finished our discussion. And so I was hopping off. Hey, thank you for editing that letter.
Oh yeah, thank you for writing it. I mean, that's amazing.
Well, no, it's great. It's way too long. And
Yeah,
you helped with that.
Yeah, that when you get into it, I know how you're like, you are like, want to make sure they know, like, just so you're sure.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing. Well, when we first wrote that, we weren't going on the website at all. Like, it's been a year, I think, since I first wrote the initial draft. So now I think that we're on the cusp of putting the website up and running. A lot of it can be taken care of by saying, here's the link.
Yeah.
And then, Pam was on there for our portion of the meeting and sort of suggested maybe you have like some bullets, of past projects.
I think that's a great idea.
Instead of like being so descriptive, and then they can always.
And moving people away from attachment to a specific planting and attachment to community trees. Yeah. So I think that these are all the things that this goes to.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good idea. I was going to mention to you to also, I've been going back through like breaking down where community tree money has come from. It's not been that much, in the past, and there's not been that much donation wise. Nina was right on. It's about $5,000 a year after Rodney rebooted it, pretty much, before that. But since the beginning, Lamar Outdoor Advertising has always been quite generous. And Gray Riley is now, he works for them. It's his family company. And he has in Lamar Outdoor Advertising, they have a portion that's a charity program to give billboards to community charity things. So when you guys get ready to promote, or if we have any specific like Arbor Day promotion, I think Gray would be very amenable to Lamar giving us a billboard. They have done it in the past. They did it looks like at the beginning when the Community Tree Council formed. And then they've done a few donations. And then last year they did a donation that was cash for the Tree Council and for planting specifically. So just put that in your back pocket.
I wonder who contacted that, or who
it would be there. And I've got his contact. I can shoot you his email.
What did you say? Who did it? Nina was in the past?
Nina was in the past who contacted him. It looked like Andrew wrote him a letter and Rodney had written him a letter of thanks. And then it was, who was our forester? Connie Head.
Okay.
So it'd been foresters that contacted him and thanked him for the donations. But Nina had said in a previous meeting, she said, look, the money isn't that complicated. We pretty much got a $5,000 grant, and that's what we did. And so I'm just thinking more, I'm very organization structurally, like if we had a process to know both like for grants and for fundraising, if we have these targets, then also if we hit them or we don't hit them, or if we hit them, then we can start doing the other fun things we like to do.
Yeah.
Which is, spend the money. And then if we don't hit them and we need to adjust them, then we know that too. So, I mean, that's sort of long-term, just sort of overall.
It's easy to get really lost in raising the money even, and so it's very helpful to have a big council and have people that are just always finding new projects. I remember when Chase Street PTO, it was like, okay, guys, why are we raising all this money? Like, what are we going to spend it on?
Yeah. So that's something I like. I'm going to clean up that framework a little bit. And
that's great.
It's very possible.
had another point that I wanted to talk to you about. Shoot. Yeah, I don't think, we won't have any big community-wide events anytime soon.
No, so we can do like a geocaching kind of. I was thinking if we did it like virtual, so then you check in, so like if you did it where you had to post it on the website, so then we're trying to bring people to get the count up to the website, and there was some prize, some event, and the prize could be that a planting or whatever. We'd make it virtual so that the participation will be vote, and that comes with issues. Like I know that means that like it's not, we don't get necessarily the broad-based participation, and so I don't know that we would anyway, to be honest. I think we can keep working on that. And if we do it in a partnership with what's going on in schools right now, I think we'll get about as broad a base participation as we could hope for.
Yeah.
I think if we think of it,
and also focusing on the Firefly Trail, this is a good time for that because the landscaping division really gets the tree. There's some logistics that we can take care of on our end that don't require a lot of manpower. Like they have the machinery and they take care of it for us. So
yeah.
And I think that we could do some more planting at the housing authority, but
I think there's lots of, the planting has lots of options, but we could even do a maintenance.
Yeah, we've done mulching.
Yeah.
We've done that. That's great. We need it. And we can also start planting smaller things. The issue we had at Broad Acres is we planted such big trees. We really did have to get 4 people in each other's faces to body slam and roll these trees around. And so we should probably just plant smaller things.
Yeah, I think that's possible. And I think, and those are, everything has to be weighed as risk or not risk, and there'll be, some risk, but I think we can do it as safely as we can do it. I think it'll look a little different, but I don't think it doesn't have to be done. It just has to be done instead of being like, everyone come out and watch us plant these trees, then we video it and we send that out to a mailing list, and so, and, figure out how to get clicks instead of physical participation at this point.
Yeah. So we're having a little issue. Pam's got to call PayPal. Something's wrong with our PayPal link. It's we'd like to take that website live. I think most people that are
I had to divorce PayPal a couple years back because of an issue, actually.
Okay.
I know. So yeah, I pretty much love the Venmo.
Yeah. Well, now does PayPal own Venmo now?
They may. I think they did just buy it. Yeah. Yeah. So it'll take me another year before I hate Venmo. But
I get so confused by it. I have clients that it's so I get Venmo and PayPal and checks and it's like a whole.
For my renters, I'm now aging out of the possibility of a check. It was really stressing them out. They were putting cash in my mailbox.
Oh my God.
Not even in an envelope. And I was like, guys. And so I had to come up with something. And so they were like, can you be Venmo? And I'm like, what's this Venmo? So and now they pay rent on time every month. And so
it's awesome. Yeah. I love it. I love it when people, it's just so easy. All right. Well, awesome. I'm going to tinker with this letter a little more and make a version with just bullet points. Okay.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. And I think, so, and looking back on the asking, we got independent grants, but this will be the first time, as far as I can tell, in the history of the CTC, to make a streamlined, organized plan for broad-based like community donations. So I think that's important. But so there is literally no standard. We had independent grants from groups, 1,500. We had money, $50, and so later down the road, not now, because you guys are just, first of all, doing all you probably can, and what you're doing now is the first steps. But I read the obits every day, pretty much, in several papers. It's embarrassing, but in ours, there's a link saying if you want to plant a tree in memory of, and you click there. And I know that's like an Arbor Day thing, but it's like, not now, but when we get ourselves all organized, like, I want to get in on that. And I want it to not necessarily be plant a tree, but, contribute to Athens Forest, or,
give to the CTC in honor of.
I don't know how it happens. I have no idea how often they get a click, but it's like, it's that money definitely goes out when people do that, that doesn't stay here in Athens. So whatever little money that is, I want to keep it in Athens.
That's right. And that's a great opportunity, a way to give. And I think we haven't hit up as many individual donors as we have corporations.
Well, and I think when you guys get that site up and running, we'll have a way to sort of mass mail or broadcast, information, mass email. We'll start developing an email, and
Right.
we'll do an online, when we need to, a biannual newsletter or an annual, and then that will begin to generate. I mean, you guys are setting a great foundation for.
Well, it's slow, but it's coming along. The Oconee River Land Trust has been a pretty good. I'm a member of them, and I often think about what they're doing and how they're reaching people, and I think they're doing a good job.
I'm trying to get Quentin Newcomer to come on to CTC. He does work. He does carbon offset programs. He runs the numbers on carbon offset programs for universities.
Yeah.
And he knows a tremendous amount about urban trees, and but he's so committed to the river work. He hasn't been willing to, and I can appreciate that. It's good to have a boundary, but if you see him,
see when he rolls off of that. Is that his job or is that his?
Well, so he had been the director of the Costa Rica program and for UGA, and they disbanded the program. So he's been doing it a little bit sort of ad hoc for different universities that he has relationships with. But the program he ran in Costa Rica, he can tell you the numbers. It is a tremendous number of trees that they planted and successfully managed, and their survival rate was good. And he used pretty much college labor, and how he sourced them. And he knows that framework very well. And
awesome.
So sometimes it's hard to get it out of his head, but it's in there.
I'm familiar with his name from his contributions on various listservs that I'm on or whatever, but I don't know him personally. I don't know if he was on the Normal Town. He used to contribute a lot to.
He lives in Pulaski Heights. His wife is Lori York, and she's an architect.
Oh, right.
We work a lot with Lori. We build things that she does in town. We end up building a good number of them.
Yeah, she's awesome. Okay,
yes.
I didn't put 2 and 2 together there.
Yeah,
we need to recruit. I think we're gonna have. I think Sean rolls off next year too, and we're now we have 3 new urban forestry employees that are on the committee, which is fine by me. But Joe Perloff ended up getting a job with New Urban, and so it's great. He's so busy, but they told one of their other employees not to apply because they didn't want to have it weighted too heavily.
I had been interviewed and doing some UGA tree where they just asked me questions about trees. Some of that through the Land Trust and some of it through UGA. And the Land Trust sent around people that were young and Black. And so I know. So I've been emailing Tawana saying, Tawana, what's Nikema doing? Doesn't he want to do Zoom meetings for 4 hours? Nikema, who worked with me on one of the research projects, he was so amazing. And then I was just texting Nikema directly saying, Nikema, okay, if it's not you, come on, you met someone when you did the tree survey. What's up with someone you met in the tree survey? We desperately need more vibrant. Yeah, so I don't know.
We talked about that in our last round of interviews when you were being interviewed. It was like we've got.
It's not like I know my group, gets less diverse. I swear, I don't have a lot of reach. But I've been trying to reach as far as I can. So we'll see.
Especially these days. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to sign off while you have your meeting. Finish this up. But good to talk to you.
Yeah, good to see you. Hey, Sean.
Hey, how's it going, Mary?
I gotta change stuff. There you go. Okay. Oh my God. Try to keep that over there.
How's it going, Joseph?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Joe.
Good. How you doing?
That's going on up. That sounds weird.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, how's it going?
How you all doing?
Great.
Good.
So I have officially withdrawn as the chair for this committee, and Mary is officially the committee chair. So I would like to ask you all to welcome Mary as the new policy committee chair, and I'll turn it over to her.
I said, be careful what you wish for. Okay, there. All right. So the first thing I did was completely reorganize what we were talking about compared to last time. I think Rodney may have noticed that. And y'all have to help me work all the way through this. But so one, I've been thinking of several things, and Rodney, the information that you sent me, I've been reading the history of the community tree council as I can find it, and the formation documents, and the charter, and the mission statement, and all that. And so when we were talking last month about the about moving forward with something for private trees in the tree ordinance with the planning department, in my mind, and please correct me if I'm wrong, in looking at the foundation of the Community Tree Council, thinking about several things, I honestly, I mean, we are instructed to work with planning on that issue, but there's a couple of things, like I'm not sure like how many trees, like the impact that has on the overall canopy situation in Athens-Clarke County. My gut tells me that it's probably a very small number of trees, but it's a very high emotional number of trees that make people want to control private trees. You know, that it's not something that is actually the Community Tree Council. You know, they're focused on the larger plantings and the whole community forest concept or canopy. It seems like that is actually this very small but very emotional thing, and that even if we get there and we do get to help work on that, which probably will need help and work, it doesn't look like we're ready yet. Like the first thing we need to do in my mind is to shore up and get the foresters master plan set so that we have the guidance to what the community trees that we are looking after or stewarding or creating that is. So that was that was what I was thinking when I put the role of CTC in planting the trees. And in lieu of that, and then I'll be quiet and y'all tell me what you think. What I thought when, Rodney, with the questions that you sent out, which literally I've still been struggling with, their broadness makes me feel small. But that I'm thinking that in a lot of instances, we actually have a lot of community information. Like one thing I thought of specifically was the Envision Athens process. All of the community meetings they had and all of the questions they asked and all the dots we put up there, that's about as broad based. I mean, that was actually a really good broad base gauge of the community. And I don't know if anyone's reached out to Aaron Barger and asked what questions that could relate to the community, like what information they got that could relate to, a master canopy plan or the community tree council. But and we did charrettes that were more west side, not as east side, because Envision Athens, I thought, did a really great job of getting both sides of town. But when they did the charrettes for what ultimately ended up being the tree plantings on Prince Avenue, that Tony Eubanks and I can't think of his name. He worked for UGA and Historic Preservation. Y'all probably know him, but that it'll come to me. But I think if we should look back, just the fact that we formed the CTC knows that we have an idea of some of the things that our community values for the canopy and the kind of questions you're asking. What do we want? What do we have? And how will it work? You can see some of those questions in the structure of the formation of the CTC. I think you can find some more of that community involvement already in the kind of charrettes we've done for Splost and the charrettes we've done for, what was the one before Envision Athens? The Athens, not Athens for Everyone, but there was another one before Envision Athens that also had community questions that I think we can go back and ask them, what did they find? And that would give us a good foundation for moving forward with the master canopy plan. And I'll be quiet.
I'm curious, when were those charrettes done? Are they recent enough that the answers and the feedback they got would still be relevant today?
For Envision Athens, for sure. And I would say for the Prince Avenue one, all those people still live here. So, I mean, in that sense, yes. So sort of like Phil said, is everything okay? An acceptable answer. So, so those people are still here. But the Envision Athens one would have the most broad-based. And Athens Land Trust may have information based on the work they did at the the garden. My brain, sorry guys, I've had a busy day, on the Broad Acres Market. That they might have something because they've been working on questioning the community about trees. So I think those questions are being asked, and we have some information, but I don't know that all of them are totally relevant. But I think using them all will give us a good idea of the perspective or shift in perspective. But Envision Athens for sure.
I have a question. Envision Athens, was that connected to the development of the comprehensive plan?
It was the one before that was the comprehensive plan, where they used some of that information in the comp plan, and that I'll have to figure out what that one was called.
Okay.
It wasn't the 100% Athens because that was my thing, but that Envision Athens is still ongoing, and they did present information to the mayor and commission. I do not know how it was used.
So the only thing the comprehensive plan really says about the community tree program, and it's very brief in there, is it mentions the development of a master plan. So there is currently no community forest master plan for Athens. So there's no strategic plan. It seems to me getting involved at that level makes some sense because trees literally can help Athens achieve almost every single one of its goals in the comprehensive plan.
So I completely agree with that, Rodney. And what I'm wondering is, can we begin on the council to assist or provide you tools to help you begin to move forward with that? And while you are moving forward with that in the council, I feel like a good role for us would be to further the questions. You know, as we get into the weeds a little bit, I'm asked specific communities questions. But that's what, so if we start with the base of something like Envision Athens, where they asked a lot of these kind of questions, and then we, the Community Tree Council, slightly more specifically as we move forward, you know, more strategically ask the community, specifically the areas that we feel we don't see represented. Like when we see the gap, we go fill the gap.
So yes, that's an interesting question. I, you know, obviously not completely equipped to answer it. I envisioned up to 10 years to develop a community forest master plan for Athens, except that now with this grant that I've applied for an iTree Echo study, that could potentially move that timeline up. So the iTree Echo study, the request, the grant request I put in is for $40,000. It's so there's a fair chunk of change involved with that. So now that that's a possibility, that can help to facilitate the development of a what I call an urban forest master plan, but it really would be an urban and community forest master plan for Athens.
So how many years into the 10-year plan are you?
One.
What?
Maybe two.
I can put some gas on that fire.
I've been here 2 years.
Okay, so we're 8 years. So we're 8 years.
So that's just me pulling something out of the hat. So
well, let's get started.
Do you all mind if I share something with you? It really, you know, hints, but I would like to throw out and kind of lead back to Lee's question. You know, community feedback is a critical aspect of this, and having up-to-date information is important. It's actually part of the ongoing process, and without the community feedback, it doesn't work. So the last part of it, you know, are we getting what we want? That's the adaptive management part. That's the part that allows the community to make adjustments and to ask the accountability questions and to do something different if it decides it's not going, you know, meeting the goals the way they would like it to. And that feedback is an integral component of that loop. So let me
yeah.
Go ahead.
My concern about that is not getting broad-based information or not getting current information. My concern about that is that it paralyzes us to proceed. Because if we are constantly having to get the most current opinion and we can't go off any opinion, we will never get started. And so it's not that I don't want to continually be querying the community and keep honing in on what our community wants, because that's going to change, obviously, as the town changes. But it would concern me that we would never begin for fear of not being having all of the most pertinent information. It will probably yeah.
I agree with that. So having the data is really critical, but also having the social data is also critical. There's a lot of methodology in this process. It came to me from an MIT professor at law who teaches ecological law, and it makes a whole lot of sense. So it isn't coming from nowhere. It's based on best management practices for engaging a well-rounded process that helps to facilitate essentially what amounts to a negotiation in deciding, what resources get invested into an asset. So that's where that's coming from.
Well, so my question is, can Envision Athens Information or similar organizations that have reached out to the community, can that be our starting point for that kind of emotional and community input? Can it be our starting point?
Well, it certainly could be. It really depends on how it's framed, right? It depends on how it's framed. Like, if you're comparing apples to oranges, maybe not. If it lines up well, maybe so. So, like I said, when I look at the comprehensive plan, it looks to me like trees literally can help Athens achieve almost every single one of the goals listed there. So it could be very simple to frame that in a way that this is how trees help to meet those goals. But that's more of the selling point. It's not really the feedback point part of it.
So the feedback we got a lot, like, we know people wanted more pocket parks. We know people wanted more public interaction spaces with natural areas, not necessarily just trees. So that kind of feedback is telling us essentially, I mean, there's clues in that feedback that could help us begin to structure how we would plant and grow and manage in the community, I think.
That is true, but it would be open to interpretation. So someone would have to interpret that information and come up with what that means from a tree perspective. And
I'm okay with that being you, like that. That's good.
Well, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. What I would do with that would be to go ask people what they want. So I came across something that it's pretty interesting. So the development of a master plan really should involve a tree hazard or a tree risk management plan. That I'm looking for the panel so I can draw this, but I may not find it. It should also be linked to an emergency response plan. So like a like a hurricane or some sort of natural disaster. But it also needs to be linked to a maintenance and a planting plan, because maintenance affects the quality of the trees. It determines, how soon to what extent they become hazardous. And of course, the planting of trees, if that's done well, they require less maintenance also. So really, to have a really well-rounded, comprehensive or strategic community forest management plan, you need to include all four of those factors. I'm currently working on a report up and basically looking into some of the components, basically from the perspective of risk assessment for the county. That's currently what I'm doing. This really is a long-term project. I would say 5 years would be a fast track for it, honestly.
That 5 years, if you got more help, or 5 years if you got grant, or and in those things, are there other agencies that you need to coordinate with to really find out that you have to coordinate with leisure services or maintenance, or do you have to coordinate with people outside of?
Well, the development of a strategic plan really is asking that question: what do you want? So this is what we have, which will be our iTree Echo study, and then the rest is all these conversations. That's going to involve management, planning, and other ACC entities, as well as community groups. So including the CTC and anybody else who is deemed relevant, which I would argue includes all of Athens citizens. So it really is, there really is a process involved there. It's doable, but it's a big project.
So I want to be clear on this, Rodney. To me, and coming in fresh, it seems like the Community Tree Council, a main part of the mission is to support the forester to be able to support the community-wide efforts. And so when you say like these are big projects or long timelines, but we still want to do that, right? We want to do this and we want to support you in this. We want to try to figure out a way where we can provide assistance, awareness, education, whatever it is community council is set up to do, which is some of those things. But we're saying do them.
So
right?
the mission of the tree council is not to support the forester. It is to participate as a partner with the forester. I welcome any support. But as far as the development of a master plan, that's something that will probably be best. It probably would be best facilitated by me doing the work of drafting that document and gathering the input from people. So I would invite the tree council to participate as a partner, but I don't see that as the tree council's function. The tree council's function is to engage in information collection and reporting to the mayor and commission, and also to engage in community outreach.
So when I read, it said we could raise money for community trees that were deemed that were part of that. We were a liaison for information for the commission. But also we are tasked with sort of supporting and promoting community trees, which would, to my mind, be the master plan. So it's not just like supporting the forester. We are literally supporting what we hope for in a broader community tree plan.
So by my interpretation, the tree council is the community representation for the county.
Okay. Joseph, you're dying to get in here, I know.
Yeah, I was just looking at Envision Athens. They did reference trees, but only a few times. But I do like and just kind of very broadly, not specifically, but I do like the idea of looking at some other studies. I know Athens in Motion is one that deals with all the corridors, right? And they showed trees kind of in the verge, Rodney, on all their sections. And one of the studies they did was like a level of comfort, right? And that's very common for bikers as well as pedestrians. And I'd imagine I haven't read it in detail, but I'd imagine if reading through, we'd find that providing a larger verge for pedestrians and having true street trees that are providing shade for the pedestrian and the cyclist would be preferred by Athens-Clarke County. I know that I would still, again, I still want to find some kind of the previous public input that we've received from the CTC, because I know, like Larry mentioned, one of the questionnaires they had, the number one thing that Athens wanted to see was trees covering and shading their streets. And he was surprised that was the number one place that they wanted to see trees. And in this study, he thought they wouldn't see them in school districts or parks because those are options, but it was actually on our streets. And I personally feel kind of passionate about that, having lived in North Carolina for a while in small towns and in a large town, and just seeing how they push the trees close to the road. And I think part of it here in Georgia is the GDOT and the Department of Transportation doesn't want a tree in their right of way. They don't want a tree within 10 feet of their right of way. And we all saw what they did at the Loop. And so, anyways, I think we should, look at other studies, but I still want to see maybe some of the past public input that we've received. And I know there's a ton of that, Rodney, and maybe, I don't have the time to sort through it, and I don't know if anybody has the time to sort through it, but I feel like that to me needs to be an important starting place for us, is where do, what input did we receive that kind of framed our policy, and what changes do we need to make? So anyways, a couple other things. So Mary, maybe before you joined, for me, some of the low-lying fruit that I would love to see, and I think a lot of Athenians would agree with, is currently there's not a requirement to have street trees in downtown. And so you see a lot of, like, you see the Mark, you see the Standard and the Hyatt, almost all the new buildings that go in don't have trees.
And they're not even required to offset that somehow. I mean, they don't even have to like put those trees somewhere else in the community.
Precisely. And so I would love to see a requirement there. I mean, so and then with that not being required to offset it anywhere, I would like to see a tree bank. A lot of other municipalities use tree banks because there's going to be challenging sites where you can't put trees in on your site efficiently or well. So, like, for example, Rodney, one that I worked on and wasn't happy with wasn't thrilled with was Mathis Apartments on Lumpkin Street that just went in. It was pretty dense, and I like density in the urban areas just because the sprawl, we know sprawl creates a lot of problems for the environment. And so, but to put all those trees on the site that we were required to, we're planting large maturing trees 12 feet on center in the courtyards and stuff. And we asked, it was one of those things, like, ask for a waiver for trees, and it's like, and in front of the public, and they think we're being cheap. But if we had a tree bank or some way to say, like, hey, the developer would have loved to plant trees somewhere else. But that was like, one of those projects where I think we're going to look, 20 years down the road and go, man, they're going to have to take out a lot of these trees. It's too many. So sorry, that was a long-winded there.
Did we, for the tree bank, how far did you get? It was just discussion in policy, or it didn't get it? So we haven't like asked planning, or we haven't asked the commission or anything like that?
So I've talked to Mark Vichuk about it.
Yeah.
And he would probably be the one really, managing the tree, or at least have some management there and understanding, because he's going to be reviewing all the plans and knowing whether people are using that tree bank to offset what they can't plant on site. And so his take was, they had discussed it at one time with some of the Athens lawyers, and it just didn't go anywhere. And there were some complications. I mean, a lawyer would need to get involved and to set that up and to kind of come up with that those codes. So that's kind of where it in Mark's mind it had kind of ended. But there's a new legal team, or some new folks now that may be more open to exploring and trying to see a tree bank established. So
we would have to change the ordinance in order to put that part in order to create a tree bank. It would then become part of the tree ordinance, which means we're changing a law, which is fine. But there are, a lot of steps that you've got to go through, and you really got to get the commission and the mayor on board before you really start spending all the time and the effort that it takes. It would be best to know how they feel ahead of time, or at least to kind of get them okay with the concept before we put all the time and energy into creating a tree bank. We would really have to change that ordinance.
So I had a conversation with Davenport about the concept of a tree bank. He was very enthusiastic for that kind of concept, and that because I think he feels like that's a good tool to help in communities that don't have the resources to get trees planted. And so I think we just take, that's all. I think if we talk to the commission, and you're right, there's tons of legwork as far as getting all the pieces together, but I think that kind of change in the ordinance would be easier than private property and like convincing them to do.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
The conversations I've had with naysayers has been along the lines of like, the conversations we have in building about solar, they're like, when will it pay itself off? Or it seems like it's not that many trees. And I convince people that it's a matter of focus. Like if we are refocusing so that this is important, then it becomes more and more important. So we'll see. But would an action item for policy, is anyone willing to shoot their commissioner an email and just a general email of the query? We're talking about tree bank. Do you know anything about it? How do you feel about that? Is there a reason why we wouldn't want to develop a tool like that for our community? So
we've got Rodney, or Russell is on the commission.
Yeah.
Russell is on the tree council.
Yes.
I'll be glad. I mean, y'all may know him. Sean and Joseph may know him a lot better than I do. But I'll be glad to do that.
Melissa's my commissioner, and I felt very comfortable talking to Patrick and Tim again. I can email them, and it's not like it would still take forever, but it would be something that at least we can maybe start the policy. I have to say, I think everything policy is a long widget, so I think it's worthwhile to look into.
Sure, I'll be glad to do that unless one of you guys knows him and wants to do that instead of me. I'll be glad to.
I'm going to let you do that. All right, so I emailed Lee too about we were talking about like how do we this thing of like getting the tree ordinance, and it definitely does say for our charter is that education and more awareness is part of our mission. And so one thing I was thinking of is developing information packets. Like education for schools seems obvious, but also education packets for like new homeowners. So if we develop what I'm calling the realtor packet, but we would have a community tree council, and it would just be like a PDF we would email that the realtor or closing attorney could print out and give to someone when they closed on their house about trees in the community, about the CTC, about, and if we get really ahead of ourselves, it could be community specific, but we could start with just a document that's general and have that be something we send out to realtors to say, hey, would you mind including this information and include sort of as a welcome to the community? So
I love that idea. I absolutely love that idea.
Yeah, I'll start working on that.
I can do, well, I was just going to say that I can do like a summary of the tree ordinance for homeowners, but I suspect that somebody's already done that. We've probably already got a brochure. Rodney, anything later on in your office that we could use?
Yeah, there's a quick guide to the ordinance.
Cool. See, I'm already done. See, I've done it.
You work fast.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I'll get that from Rodney next time I see him.
So I have jumped ahead, and we did agree as a thing to present iTree findings to commission, and so that whenever that happens, I think that's good. And then I think my question about like, does CTC is there any need for us to be like talking to leisure services or talking to the school board or talking to maintenance as far as making like a uniformed effort for the community trees? Rodney, I guess.
So this is where I'm really not entirely able to speak. Like, this is really where I need to present the data and where other people need to have conversations. I have my own ideas, what I would love to see, but I'm just not in a position to talk about that. So that would be where I would start asking the question, what do people want, and what are they willing to put into it?
Can I add this as a question for our regular meeting? Regular meeting about coordinating with the community, other community agencies for a more seamless understanding and action on canopy issues. And so to just develop that. So we can ask the bigger group if they think that's
kind of what the education committee is doing.
okay.
Kind of. I mean, we're split into two, and one is dealing with schools, and then I'm on the one that's dealing with professional education. And I approached Jeannie about this, and she heads landscape, and she said, "Yeah, that'd be fine." But right now, my idea was to do like a luncheon time or a lunch and learn. But they aren't doing lunches anymore in the lunchroom because of COVID, and it's really only a half an hour, and they're in and they're out, and it wasn't what I thought. And right now isn't the time. But in general, she's open to it. And Rodney said, I had a really quick, short conversation with him, asking him about that. And he said that he's got some materials in his office
Okay.
that we could use for kind of that type of thing. So I don't know if we're sort of overlapping what the education committee is doing.
I was wondering if you
ahead,
could clarify, Mary, what you meant by that.
So what I was trying to say was, and maybe it is education exactly, is not necessarily talking about making sure that we're not striving for duplicate things, and making sure that like leisure services manages their canopy, the schools essentially manage their canopy maintenance, and Rodney's office manage public trees. So to make sure that as the tree council, we know that everybody has the same information about our hopes and aspirations but that does sound like education, really, to make communicating in a way that, like, if they have a problem, who are they asking? If they are looking at taking out trees, how are they replacing them? If they are looking at maintaining them, how are they maintaining them? Who do they ask about that?
Are you talking about schools doing that?
So I can speak to that a little bit.
Okay.
I believe it has to do with the way the government is structured in Athens, and the mayor and commission is the short answer, and then they work with other officials to come up with decisions. So these cannot go through me. They really can't even go through Jeannie or Andrew. So short answer is it needs to be communicated to the mayor and commission.
Then my last one was I wanted to follow up on making a relationship with the archivist, heritage room, and at the ACC library. Begin a repository for CTC documents. And honestly, this is just something that I'm not even sure this is policy, but that it would be the whole council would decide like what information they'd want to put in there, how often they'd want to do it. It seems like it would be an annual thing that you would annually turn over documents, whatever documents we want to turn over. And then we have this place that isn't as mysterious as Gene Spratlin's office for where all the community tree council information is for people that are coming on to the council. And it may help in the long run with like the profile of the community. If the public in the library and someone's going through and doing genealogy stuff, but they run across tree council stuff, it may, I don't think it'd be a huge thing, but just as a way to organize the longevity of the council to begin that relationship. And I'd be willing to start that process and talk to the librarian. But I think it's something that our group would bring to the whole group and see if that's something they think is useful, or it may be redundant, maybe it's not necessary. But I don't know, Lee, what do you think?
So there are some documents that are required by ordinance to be retained in the landscape management office, and the duplications of those same documents are required to be maintained by the mayor and commissioner's office, which is kind of being done through the public information office online. So there's currently a little bit of a migration where the mayor and commission office is entrusting the public information office to keep those documents public. And specifically what those documents are the minutes and agendas for the Community Tree Council. Otherwise, the Community Tree Council can basically maintain its documents any way that it sees fit. There is some benefit in having them retained where there's some institutional memory. And I think that's why they ended up in the forester's office. So as the secretary, the forester, in theory, has a history of the CTC. Until they get promoted, right? Which is what happened with Andrew.
So my thinking is when coming on and trying to go through the many different places, and I don't think it's anything that the public couldn't see. And I think it may, when I try to explain to people and trying to recruit people to be on the Community Tree Council, I don't have a lot of good places to point them as far as like showing them the sort of legacy of it. And so that we would have this sort of public legacy, which would maybe then people would consider it more. It'd be easy to show them this thing, easier than having it come down to your office.
Are any of the minutes online? Like the historical minutes, are any of them archived online?
Not that I found.
The historical documents are not. So yeah, there are some legacy historical documents here in my office, and I'm happy to share them on the condition that every single original document stays here. So I really think it would be great if we had a historian or someone who could use these documents and put them into a usable format. I think that would be absolutely wonderful. But I don't want to lose them either. So that's.
Yeah, I'm not talking about taking information from any source. I'm actually just talking about adding source.
Yeah, there's a lot of great information. It just needs, a well-qualified person to organize them and then to frame that information.
Well, think on it. We can talk more at the general meeting and see if we think that it's a useful process. I am a little bit of a library nerd, and so when I get into a new project, I like to go research as much as I can. And I couldn't find very much about community tree. Kind of frustrated. So I don't know if we want everyone to be doing that or not.
Okay.
That's it for me, I think.
I was just looking back over the agenda. Is there anything left undone? I was skimming it, and it looks like, are we going to go ahead and, let me get back to that page. Are we going to ask the whole CCC to okay the archivist relationship, or is that something we can do in committee and hasn't been done?
I don't procedure. It seems like we would have to, based on the way the board is structured, it seems like we have to ask everyone if that's okay. And then at the next meeting, if they say okay, then we can proceed. So I would say the first step is if we think that's useful. If we think it's useful, bring it to the whole committee. The whole committee says yes, then I can get started.
Okay. And as far as presenting the iTree findings to the commission, what can I do to help that? Are we going to do that, or do we not have the iTree findings yet? Or
we don't. They're just. We grant yet.
What, Rodney? You're laughing at me. Look,
he's muted himself,
and I'll never know why either. He'll never tell me why. He'll just laugh silently at me every time I see him.
I'm literally watching myself turn red on screen here.
That bullet point is an optimistic bullet point. That bullet point is assuming the grants in the bag, the study.
Oh, that's talking about the same thing. Okay, I didn't. It's another
So that is a moving forward that this committee seems the likely to actually literally present that to the mayor and commission.
So the timeline for the iTree Echo study is October 15, 2020 until October 15, 2021. The Tree Council is part of the deliverable for presenting some of that information to the mayor and commission. So it's an enormous amount of information. So, but some basics about structure, function, and composition would make some sense. And as far as like the reliability of the data, because of constraints with Dr. Gordon and budgeting, it was reduced from what was initially projected as a 2-year study to a 1-year study, and reduced from a projected 30 plots per stratification area to 20 plots or less per stratification category. So one of the things I would, and this is very premature, it's not time to ask this question, but one of the things I would ask the CPC would be for help in the year following this study to collect additional data to beef up the statistics. So in other words, right now it's presented for 200 plots total. That's countywide for everything. Even collecting 5 or 10 or 20 more plots in a stratification zone or 2 or 3 would really help to beef up the statistics. So if there's anybody who would be available to go out and collect data.
So would normally, what the additional plots?
It's $100 to $200 per hour for a consulting arborist.
So can part of what we do is raise money for that? I mean, I think we can. We're allowed to according to our charter.
Well, the money isn't the hardest part about this. The hardest part is finding and organize the qualified people to go out and collect the data.
I can't help with that. I don't have the money.
I understand.
I can.
Yes, you can.
Lee, one thing I'm thinking of for the presentation, our part of presenting to the mayor and commission is when we get there and we have lots of time. We'll basically be presenting an outline, a general outline of the findings. So we should make it like an event, like a very exciting thing to bring to the mayor and commission, that we have this great data that now they can act on, and so make it, that's what I think would be. I need to give them all the nuts and bolts of what it all means, and we just get to present it.
Let me propose something. The timeline October to October is really tight on the initial study, and the only requirement is to deliver a presentation at a public, some sort of public presentation. It doesn't even have to necessarily be an event. My intention is to follow up with that to present at the Georgia Tree Council, and I think the opportunity to present to the mayor and commission would be in the spring of 2022 would be, I think, probably more realistic timeline to make a really well-rounded presentation. That since this is an ACC study, what I am able to release is not up to me. So I will be giving directives on what it is that I'm able to release, and then consequently or subsequently, what the Tree Council then would be able to portray out to the public. So there's going to be a process involved with this. And I don't know what those directives are going to look like. I have no idea.
Well, we've got a good bit of time for that. presented the 100% community resolution for clean and renewable energy. The document itself was rather large. We sort of turned it into the mayor and commission, and we all got a photo with them, and so we made it this thing that was the public could also feel like something was communally accomplished. And I think we can do that with the tree council. They'll get all the information, but what we want to do is celebrate that we have made this direction, that we have gone this, and we got plenty of time. Sounds like we have plenty of time to figure out the logistics of what we are able to do.
Yes, I agree. What I would suggest is allow the internal process to take place over the next year. And really, if the tree council was able to, to help assist in collecting further data to beef up the statistics, I think that would be a natural segue to presenting better data a year later. So I think that's where the tree council could really work well as a partner to produce better data for the county and then present that.
So how many people do you need? So you're talking about 10 additional plots, and how many people for each plot do you need for qualified?
Well, I would love to see 100 more plots. And we're talking 4 hours a plot, potentially. Not quite that much, but potentially that much.
So what kind of labor is that?
It's huge.
So is that like we ask the university for students, or is it who can be qualified to do it? Who's the qualified person to do this?
No, so that's already being done with this initial study. So it would really be more like working with me and my interns, I believe.
Okay.
Maybe working as a separate tree council team. I don't even know if we have enough people who would be interested in doing that. I'm just floating some ideas.
I know Phil, but Phil would love to.
Well, it requires pretty high level tree identification skills.
Yeah, I know 10 trees. So. Okay.
Rodney, let's catch up later, and I may, let's talk about the possibilities in urban forestry.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So we're out for policy committee. You're down to education?
Education isn't going to meet today because Mark is out of town. So if we want the time, we can have it. I'm not suggesting we go for another hour. I'm just saying we don't have to get off because nobody's coming off at 3.
I think we did well. I think we covered a lot of ground, and think I'm going to put back in more discussion on tree bank and those whatever process that has to develop as. We're going to, in line with that, we're going to feel out some commissioners, and we're going to move forward with asking about wanting to have an additional archive place. Is it pretty good?
Yeah, you were going to talk to the archivist. Did you say?
I've already had an email conversation with her. And so I wanted to find out if there had been in the past a relationship, if there were documents already there. And the Welcome Center has documents. The Heritage Room doesn't have any documents that you can find. There were some sidebar documents about tree plantings, but not related to the Community Tree Council. But she told me about the process of if we wanted to do it, how we would start.
Okay. All right, and I'll email Russell.
Excellent.
And I'll get those brochures from Rodney.
Yes.
To summarize the tree ordinance for the realtor packet.
That sounds good. And when you get going on that, we can go back and forth and start making the document. We can make the document together, something that'll be electronic, so that we won't have to worry about the brochure and it being outdated. We can update it all the time. Okay. Cool.
All right, cool. Thanks, Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank y'all. See you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you. See ya.
All right, see ya.
Thank you.